So this is the second part of the introduction video, the third video overall here. And you're bringing in external research, which is fine as far as it goes, but you have to cite it properly. You have to cite the page that the research is coming from that you're citing and so on. If you bring the data in, you need to go back and okay, so what I'm saying is, I'm sorry, what I mean is, if you're reading your article, Article 2, and it's quoting another piece of research, like something from the Bureau of Justice, then you would cite it based on the page of your article and say, this is Bobo, I guess, so page 32 or something, semicolon, citing Bureau of Justice, data from the Bureau of Justice. If you're actually looking at Bureau of Justice stuff, then you have to cite to that page. That's what I'm trying to say. You bring in, you say the bulk of the, I'm on the last paragraph in your Article 2 literature review section. And you say the bulk of the wave of arrests that these numbers reflect come from policy changes enacted on the war on drugs that also included increased sentences, with nearly 77% of the incarcerated population labeled nonviolent. The question is, when you're being specific like that on numbers, when was that from? What year? And also, you've got that citation. It looks like you don't have a cite between the period and the for. So little things like that, got to pay attention to them. Another thing is the way that this is written. We have arrests and convictions. So, and you say increased sentences. I'm going to say longer, I think. A little less fancy word probably goes better there. Okay. You say the authors present a counter-argument toward the cause being African Americans. That's an awkward phrasing. The authors reject the argument that African Americans are to blame for their own difficulties. Then I go with a colon and the quote. And the way that you've structured this, it left me with the question, based on these numbers, were these numbers just for males, or is it for the entire population? And then you say versus non-white Hispanic population, rate of 1 in 10. Department of Justice again, if you're coming from the Bobo article, just use a cite to that and say citing DOJ. If it's from, you're actually looking at the DOJ, then you have to do a citation for that. The rate was also not limited to the region in which the rates of arrest and criminal okay, so you have something here. I've just got some question marks I put in there. I can't read this and make sense of this. The rate was not limited to region in which the rate of arrest and criminal observation were similar but had a similar ratio dependent on the African American population. That's just not, missing words or something got mixed up in there. So you need to clean that up. The last line in the literature now is the arrest rate for African Americans. The use of policy to enact social control resulted in a polarized group riddled with racial bias. The arrest rate of African Americans, use of policy to enact social control in a polarized group deeply affected by racial bias. I think that's a little better. And I didn't set a timer, so hopefully I'm okay. The last one, the last article, Article 3. The United States was founded on freedom and acceptance. ostensibly founded. It's a little Pollyannish to think that, the slaveholding founders were all about freedom. They're about freedom for rich white guys. I mean, and I'm not a social justice warrior, don't get me wrong, but you can't go against reality on something like that. That's just how it is. In any event, yet a history, and I'm changing to, you say a history strife. I think that's just a typo. You meant rife. And because strife happens to be a word too, it got through spell check. Yet a history rife with events tells us a different story. Now, here's the thing. The way I've got it written around is probably okay. I would maybe say tells a different truth or a sufficient truth, something like that. The use of public policy to allow mass incarceration, I would say it spurred mass incarceration. The policy spurred that. Different perceptions in the next sense, different percentages of law, different perceptions of law enforcement. So I'm taking that sentence, kind of assembling and disassembling things here. Trying to keep your writing on the page, but I'm playing around with the order of sentences a little bit because I think it flows better this way. Differing perceptions of law enforcement are marked. So among the races, we're saying we see different perceptions of law enforcement. The high arrest rate created by a large number of African Americans, the high arrest rate created a large number of African Americans who no longer vote. Ugan and Mazza's Democratic, then the article, that's fine, examines use for mass incarceration and considers the results of a large number of African American citizens now being unable to vote. The authors assert, and then I'm saying that the United States has a suffrage crisis neither public nor political figures have addressed, and that the crisis is both a race issue and a human rights problem. You definitely need a citation there. So where you have a percentage that is not a flat number, not a whole number like 2, it's 2.3. You can write it out as 2.3 there, but I still write out the percent. And the last little change there is a small one. The conservative agenda to become tougher on crime from the 60s to today has created a politically silenced group of American citizens. So I'm saying that slightly differently than the way you did, but I think it still works just fine. So anything I changed in the next paragraph? Anything substantial? Not really. Changing partisan control and several major policy shifts. I have changing partisan control and leading to several major policy shifts. I thought it was good to have more connection there. Clinton administration may have passed. They would have passed if they'd had more judicial nominees, and committees would have shifted control. So I'm putting it in a future tense, almost a subjunctive case. Tense there, not a case. So now we're up to the last paragraph. I think we're still under time, which is good. These policies, those policies. It's those policies. You already talked about them. You need a cite after that second sentence. And also you present it as an absolutely dichotomous thing. The whites feel this way, the blacks feel this way. There's not a majority, but there have always been a number of black people who have been in favor of law and order. So one cannot just speak for entire groups, particularly when they're not monolithic. So keep in mind, that's not a monolithic group. There's too many of them. Not everyone shares the exact same opinion in an entire race of people. By restricting voting rights and growth of the African American community, I'm saying economic growth. Needs a cite there. And the last sentence, white citizen victimized, while white citizens instead, you say you disenfranchised felons subjected to a criminal justice system trying to do its job. I say see disenfranchised felons within a criminal justice system that is doing its job. Minor change. Sometimes again we're just batting ideas back and forth, so it's up to you if you want to keep that one or not. Okay, that's what I got. I'm going to do the analysis and synthesis, and we'll be all set.